Welcome everyone to episode 96 of Raw Sport. We're back with another banger of a show. We have a very special guest today, and you would not believe it, for the first time in Raw Sport history, we are talking to an avatar. Mr. Matty Brown, how are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man? Yo, first of all, I wanted to thank you for having me on the show because I have been following your platform from a distance. You've had like a lot of interesting interviews, a lot of interesting guests. So I'm happy I finally got the call, man. You finally put me in the game, coach.
Yeah, we're always welcome here at Raw Sport, mate. Always. Matty, we have, you guys are in the weeds. For those that don't know who Brunch Boxing is, can you tell us a bit about Brunch?
Well, first of all, we started Brunch Boxing it's coming up on 2 years ago now. I did some previous work for like British boxing websites and stuff like that, but I really fell out of covering the sport of boxing because I kind of fell out of love with the way that boxing was covered. But one day I decided, you know what? If I want to change the way boxing is covered, why don't I do it myself? So I started Brunch Boxing. We cover the sport of boxing with what I feel are very interesting interviews for the public. We do a weekly show every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time over here in the United States. And we just cover the sport from top to bottom all across the globe. And that's what we do, basically.
Very, very nice. Brunch is doing some great things for the sport of boxing. We will get straight into the headlines. Caleb Plant has been pretty much announced for a return. So has Mr. Charlo. Um, this rivalry that's intensified between Jermall Charlo and Caleb Plant, and it caused Plant to, when you saw him in person, slap him in the face. Charlo didn't really react, and it's built some sort of grudge now, and they're both fighting, I believe, on the same card as per announced. What are your thoughts on the card, number one? Number two, this whole grudge, where did it stem from?
Well. Firstly, the card itself, I think the card is pretty good for what it is. If we know it's to
Uh,
set up the bigger matchup between the two guys. I know that there are going to be some people who say, why don't they fight each other right away? Well, Charlo hasn't been in the ring in 2 years. Let's be honest. Well, do we
correct.
really want to see Jermall Charlo go into a fight against Caleb Plant without a tune-up or anything like that? I don't think so, because I don't think we're going to get the best of Jermall Charlo if we do that. I think what this fight is going to show is whether or not Charlo can stay sharp. Is he sharp? How does he look coming back into the ring from that long layoff? He's going up against Conflict Lamana, who is, he's a scrappy fighter, no great shakes, not a world level guy, but he will give you some good work if you're not careful, So I do think that it's going to be interesting to see where Charlo is at. Now, as for Caleb Plant, he's going up against Armando Resendez, who, some people know him from his fight with Elijah Garcia. And I got to say, the thing about Resendez that people have to realize is that this is a guy who has fought at 168 for his entire career. And the only time he came down to 160 was for 2 fights with PBC. So I think him fighting at his natural weight class is probably going to be a more interesting matchup than people understand just by looking at the name. So I'm actually pretty interested in that fight because I think he's going to be able to give Caleb Plant some good work. And we know what this is set up. It's to set up Charlo versus Plant. That's what the people want to see. We all remember the slap her around the world.
Yeah.
Caleb Plant hit him. And I was troubled. I was troubled because Charlo got inducted into what I call the Stay Slap Club. When somebody slaps you and you just don't do nothing, you just stay slapped. And you just can't do that. He got to get his get back. I don't know what was going through his head where he didn't really react at all when he got slapped. It was actually sad to see. I saw a lot of people clowning him. I was actually sad. I'm like, damn, he just got slapped and did absolutely nothing. And basically, Plant was the one challenging him to fight. So I'm curious to see what happens with them and what they do later on in the year if they both come through this fight unscathed.
What's going on with Charlo? I mean, what is there stuff behind the scenes that's really playing with his head. He doesn't look right.
Well, what I will say, not to like delve too much into the person with him, like I think his substance abuse issues, and by substance I mean alcohol, has been well documented. I think that's really what it boils down to. Whether or not he's battling mental health issues. We remember the WBC stripped him of his 160-pound title after he was arrested for a DUI. Listen, this is just the guy that has been struggling with substance abuse issues. But what I will say is that I was very pleased to see him reunited with his brother. They seem to have like a little weird relationship for a few years. They're back in the gym together. They're reunited. So maybe this is a sign that Jermall Charlo has turned things around and is moving in the right direction. We just have to find out May 31st how that plays out in the ring.
Yeah, they were very close, and then there was a breakup, and it seemed to really impact him. And he hasn't been right since, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, that's his twin brother. I think what happened with them, it was a lot of Jermall Charlo got tired of being the little brother. He got tired of being called Little Charlo. I remember Jermall had said, "Oh, I'm Big Charlo now," which is a very weird thing to say. Because everyone calls your brother Big Charlo. Now you say, "Oh, I'm Big Charlo." Bro, that's your brother. So for me, from the outside looking in, it was a little bit weird. And it seems like it affected Jermall more than Jermall. And I'm just glad to see that they're back together. And hopefully this is the start of the return of Lions Only.
Hopefully. All right, we'll move on to another fighter that was part of the PBC stable and is no longer there, from my understanding, unless I've been misinformed. Deontay Wilder's comeback has been announced. Wilder faces Robert Herndon in a pretty important fight because we spend a lot of time on X with talking boxing, with X users calling it a make or break moment for his career after a long layoff. What are your thoughts on the fight and the comeback and Wilder himself?
So believe it or not, and it's going to sound hyperbolic, but this is the most important fight of Deontay Wilder's career. Because, listen, we saw what happened in Saudi. He got his lights turned out by Big Bang Jang. It was sad to see, and there's been many calls for Deontay Wilder to retire. But this is a man that believes in himself. He believes in his mission. He believes he's going to be champion again one day. And this fight on June 27th in Wichita, Kansas is going to be the first step towards getting there. If he can't, listen, if he has to go rounds with Herndon, with Tyrell Herndon, then he has to retire. Because this is the guy that he should obliterate within a round or two, let's be honest. Like Herndon, he's small, he's slow, he's really no great shakes. Wilder should have obliterated him. And that's what I'm looking to see in Kansas. I might have to make the trip out there, to be honest with you.
It's going to be televised on Black Prime Sport, I believe, right?
Yeah. BLK Prime. It's going to be on BLK Prime. They did a deal with Nelson Lopez, who was who is the manager for Alicia Baumgardner. Some people remember that he had beat out Eddie Hearn for the purse bid for the Pursoon Baumgardner fight. So he's a known guy in boxing. He's been around boxing for a long time. So I'm glad Deontay Wilder hooked up with him to get this fight over the line. I just want to see, because I know Deontay Wilder's plans. I've been talking to his people for a while now, so I already knew that this fight was coming in Kansas. The plan is to get 2 tune-up fights and then see where he's at and get back in the mix. So
what's he done differently now? Has he made any changes?
I'm sorry. What kind of changes do you mean? You mean like to his camp?
Yeah.
Well, so how can I put this without stepping on any toes? He may have an extra set of eyes in the corner. I'm not saying that him and Malik Scott are done, but he may bring in an extra set of eyes just so he can get a different perspective. Because if he's being honest, and I think he is being honest about his performance, his last 2 performances, he has not looked like Deontay Wilder. He may say that it was because of the shoulder injury that he had surgery on. Some may say that it's because of whatever personal issues he was going through in his personal life. Some may say it's because of Malik Scott. Because I tweeted out after his fights that Malik Scott successfully turned Deontay Wilder into Malik Scott. You know, basically he tried to turn Deontay Wilder into something that he's not. Deontay Wilder is an unorthodox, athletic, big power punching fighter. Why are you trying to turn him into Pernell Whitaker? Like, we don't want that out of Deontay Wilder. So he's going to make some necessary adjustments in his camp, but I do still think that Malik Scott is going to be the head trainer.
Man, look, I'm going to be brutally honest here. He's not the most skilled fighter. His power is his gift. And in so many fights, that's what's won him the fight and got him to where he is today. I mean, that's what I personally believe anyway, because I've seen him down in fights, and the one way he's come back and won the fight is he's hurt his opponent. He's waited, set traps, boom, see you later. It's good night.
But that's a skill though. See,
yeah.
So when people talk about boxing skills, I kind of feel like what they really mean is traditional boxing. Like, oh, look at the foot feint. Look at this. Look at how crisp the jab. Like Deontay Wilder is not skilled in that way, but
Correct.
Deontay Wilder is unorthodoxly skilled because a lot of guys in boxing have power, but Deontay Wilder perfected his delivery system to deliver that power, which is not an easy thing to do in boxing. So to me, that's a skill in and of itself. And I'm just hoping that he goes back to that.
Very well put. Okay, let's keep going. Sebastian Fundora had a successful title defense. With all due respect to Booker, it was a good comeback fight for him. Lots of talk around him and Xander Zayas on the night, and then after that, mandatories from different bodies and whatnot. What do you see the future for Fundora?
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's going to be Xander Zayas. When speaking with Samson, because we spoke to him over the weekend in Las Vegas, Sebastian Fundora has no intention of dropping that WBO belt. So the WBO ordered him to fight Xander Zayas. So he's going to fight Xander Zayas. That fight's probably going to take place sometime during the summer. I'm hearing sometime in July, I believe, that the fight's going to take place, and it's going to be a good fight. You're going to see a lot of synergy over the next coming months between PBC and Top Rank.
That was going to be my next question.
That
was going to. You beat me to it. Yeah, keep going.
So the thing with PBC and Top Rank, they've worked together before in the past. So I don't like when people say they're finally working together. They've been working together when it made sense. But I do think we're going to see more synergy with them and more consistently. So you're not going to see any infighting over Xander Zayas versus Sebastian Fundora. That's going to get made. You're probably going to see Stephen Fulton go up against Oshaki Force at 130 pounds. And who knows? You might see a little bit down the line, maybe later in the year, maybe early next year, you might see a Gervonta Tank Davis versus a Keyshawn Davis. You know, there's a lot of big fights to be made between PBC and Top Rank. And I think we're going to be getting those fights strategically sprinkled out throughout the year.
So are you writing off Lamont Roach or?
Yeah, I am.
Wow, typical.
Yeah. So listen, I like Lamont Roach. Lamont Roach is a good fighter. When the first fight was announced, I said it was going to be a good fight while it lasts. I thought it was going to play out like the Leo Santa Cruz fight, where Lamont Roach was going to give Tank some problems, but I thought Tank would eventually find him and knock him out. It did play out like the Leo Santa Cruz fight, except it kept repeating without the finding him and knocking him out thing. I think Lamont Roach fought the fight of his life. I think Tank had a bad night at the office. I do think the draw was fair. But in the building, I'll be honest with you, I thought Tank won in the building. I had the 7-5. But the draw was fair. I'm not going to argue with the draw. I just think that Tank is going to get started sooner, earlier, and he's going to be more aggressive earlier. And I think that is going to spell trouble for Lamont Roach.
Do you believe Tank was focused in that fight?
Um, it's a funny thing, focus, right? Because when the fight was first announced and they had that first press conference back in December in Brooklyn, I said, yo, Lamont Roach has a really good chance. I don't like the way Tank looks, because when I saw him up close, he just looked like he was out of it. It was like his mind was elsewhere. He looked sad. He looked very different. But then the next day when they went to DC for that press conference, Tank was turned up and switched on. So I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe Tank is back. All right, cool. But as we look at it with hindsight, all the signs were there that maybe Tank wasn't as focused as he should have been. But to say that, to me, is to take credit away from Lamont Roach. And I don't want to do that, because I think Lamont Roach fought an excellent, excellent fight. I just think it was the perfect storm of events that culminated in a great performance for Lamont Roach, an uneven performance for Tank, a terrible performance from Steve Willis, and the result that we got, which was a draw. In the rematch, can we expect the same thing to happen? I don't think so. Sometimes guys just have the night of their lives, and that's the one thing about boxing that I hate, is when we don't get a decision correct, like the way we think it's supposed to be correct. Sometimes that's just the best the guy can do that night, and then it's never going to happen again. And I think that that's the case for Lamont Roach. It's not going to happen again. I think Tank is going to beat him up and get him out of there.
Wow, what's your commentary on his comments during the fight? Where I know we're going back a bit now, but I'm trying to get to a point here, to the events in the fight where he thought the 12th round, I think it was the actual 8th round, and I think that sort of highlights that he was a bit all over the place, eh?
Yeah. Well, I don't put that on Tank. I put that on Barry Hunter. I got to put that on Barry Hunter, because you're the corner. Like, to me, Barry Hunter had one of the worst performances that I've ever seen from a trainer in the big fight. He offered nothing to the corner that night, and I hate to say that, because Barry Hunter is very well respected in the boxing community, especially here on the East Coast. But he offered absolutely nothing to that fight, and I don't want to see Barry Hunter in Tank's corner again, because they weren't in sync. Whatever kind of relationship Tank and Calvin Ford has, whatever problems that they may or may not have, all I know is on fight night in the corner, when he's the head trainer, it just fucking works. He knows exactly what to tell Tank in the time that he needs to tell him. And Barry Hunter offered absolutely nothing to Tank that night. And I think that he was a net negative in the corner for Tank that night. So I'm hoping that Tank understands that and makes the tough decision, and reunites back with Calvin Ford as his head trainer.
What's the story there?
Well, if you let Calvin Ford tell it, he was going through some stuff personally, and he approached Tank about stuff he was going through. So they made the decision, hey, you're not gonna be in my corner. But he came into camp like late, I believe, like in January. He said, to just do some finishing touches and stuff like that, just to see what he's seeing. But he wasn't there for most of the camp, and I think it showed in Tank's performance, and it showed in the disorganization of the corner on that fight night.
But Tank looked angry at him in that corner. He was almost telling him off.
Yeah,
he came to wipe his face.
He did. But it's the heat of the moment. It's fight. Listen, I played a lot of sports growing up. Sometimes you yell at your teammates. It happens.
Are we reading too much into it?
Yeah, I believe we are reading too much into it, because the bond that Tank and Calvin Ford has is a special once-in-a-lifetime kind of bond. Like Tank has said, like, that guy's been like a father to me. He's been steadfast in that. He said, even if it's not boxing, even if they're not in boxing together, Calvin Ford will always be part of his life. So I do think we're reading too much into it. I just think that Calvin Ford saw what was going on, and he was trying to light a fire under Tank, and I think that's what happened. It was just two too many voices in the corner and not the right voices in the corner. It just needed to be Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis.
Wow, there you go. All right, well, we will wait and see what goes on in that rematch. I should have some news for you guys next week, so stay tuned. Some special guests. Cuba is finally hosting a pro boxing fight night after 60 years of no pro boxing because of the government rulings there. What are your thoughts on this event? It's going to be featuring Julio Cesar La Cruz on April 11th. Lots of people talking about it on X. Very exciting times and a historic shift in the future of the sport for boxing in general, and especially Cuban boxing, because we know what the Cubans offer in the world of boxing, especially at the amateur level. And their biggest downfall has been is they've had to come through these secondary systems where they're not the A side most of the time. They come in as opponents, and in the how can I say, non-favorable way of coming up in the sport. What are your thoughts?
I gotta tell you, I'm very happy for Cuba. Like you said, this is historic, but I can't help but feel it's a little bittersweet for me. God damn it, I would have loved to see Muhammad Ali against Teofilo Stevenson. I would have loved to see Felix Sabon. Like, there were just so many great Cuban fighters over the years that I would have loved to see in the pro boxing mix at the high level. And I just can't help but think about that. What if Guillermo Rigondeaux was able to get over here in his 20s and not in his mid to late 30s,
Yeah.
But,
Even Ortiz, King
this,
Kong, the one that's now
yeah, yeah,
almost 50 and
yeah,
he's still fighting. Right? Imagine
yeah,
we got him
yeah.
in his prime.
Exactly. We could have had him versus Muhammad Ali, So it's like, but I'm so happy that at least we get to see Aris Landy Alvarez, who by all accounts is a blue chipper. There's going to be a lot of guys coming out of that Cuban boxing system that are going to be able to do big things in the pro. So salute to Aegon Sports and Entertainment for putting on this card. Now, I am wondering, are they going to welcome back the fighters that left Cuba? Are they going to welcome back the Osleys Iglesiases, the David Morrells, the Evers Landy Laras, and they go Dennis Ugas, like guys like that who left the island in search for the American dream? Are they going to welcome those guys back and bring them in the mix over there on that island? Because I personally think that they should have all the Cuban legends come back to the island and maybe stage some Rumble in the Jungle type event over there.
It should definitely be a massive ceremony, almost like not obviously the size of the Olympic opening ceremony, but a massive ceremony to celebrate boxing and the history of Cuban
Yeah,
boxing on shores outside Cuba, unfortunately. And this is the start of hopefully a great successful boxing venture for the country of Cuba that's produced so many stars through the amateur ranks. And unfortunately, they've got lost because we used to hear stories of Cuban amateur fighters selling their uniforms to Western countries because everybody obviously wanted the Cuban uniform because they were so good, so dominant, so on and so on, just to get through. I mean, this really sad stories considering the amount of skill and talent that comes out of Cuba.
yeah, yeah. I do wonder what is this going to do for the economy in Cuba, because we know how
Yeah,
much boxing is beloved over there. I wonder if this is going to bring a lot of revenue to the island of Cuba.
it will. If it's done properly, definitely it will. It'll bring a lot of tourism.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot
Because
of
I listen,
tourism.
I would love to go to Cuba, man. I would
Makes
love
two
it.
of us. Absolutely. All right, let's keep going. Joshua versus Fury. There's hints, there's talk. People on X are just going crazy with speculation and different scenarios and what. What have you heard? Are we going to see it finally?
Listen, I heard that Tyson Fury is retired. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
heard. Is he coming back? Who knows with Tyson Fury? Nobody knows. But as of right now, he's retired. I know we all want to quote unquote see that fight because
Yeah.
it's been a massive fight. It's going to be a massive fight in the UK. It's a fight that should have got done. You know, it's a damn shame that Anthony Joshua has not fought Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury. You know, it's kind of weird. I think it's kind of a black mark on him, but we won't get into that right now. I would love to see it. I just don't think that it's feasible at least this year. Last time we saw AJ, he was face down, ass up. Okay, so we have to
Yeah.
understand that AJ needs to be rebuilt. And last time we saw Tyson Fury, he didn't seem happy with the sport of boxing. He thought he got jobbed against Usyk. Let's be honest. Whether or not we agree with him doesn't matter. He thought he got jobbed. He said he got robbed, basically. So maybe he's not too enamored with the sport of boxing. Maybe he thinks that boxing is trying to be done with him, so he's done with it. You know, you can't fire me, I quit. You know, so these guys have some rebuilding to do in order to put that fight together and let it be the massive event that it's meant to be.
Interesting. When we had Spencer Brown, Fury's manager, on this show a few weeks back, he said he's retired, so there's nothing there. So interesting to see how things play out, really. We will keep going. Tim Tszyu versus Joey Spencer. The fight going down under in Zoo Castle. Explaining what Zoo Castle means. That fight's happening in Newcastle, but because Tim Tszyu's become such an attraction in Newcastle and sells very well, it's called Zoo Castle. Tim Tszyu will probably sell out the event arena there, as he's done before. There was some ongoing saga about the judges. And, obviously the talk online was, why is Joey Spencer so worried about the judges? Zoo came out and said he's got other things to worry about than just the judges. I'd be focused on that. What are your thoughts on this whole debacle?
Listen, whatever that man was promised to make that fight, deliver on it. One thing about me, I'm on the side of right. I don't care who's the A side, who's the B side. As a man, you keep your word because that's all that you have. If they told him he was going to get two neutral judges and they agreed to that, and that's why he took the fight, and then when he got there, they were going to give him three Australian judges, then shame on them for trying to get one over on him. And I'm glad that he stood up for his rights and what he believed in. I respect that. Now, do I think they're going to need the judges? Hell no. I think somebody's getting knocked out. Whether or not it's
Yeah.
going to be Joey Spencer or Tim Tszyu, tune in Saturday night over here in the U.S. at 10 p.m. Eastern time to find out on Prime Video. But I don't think they're going to need the judges. I think it's a good fight. Joey Spencer has a deadly right hand, and Tim Tszyu was there to be hit. But we also know that Tim Tszyu can box a lot better than Joey Spencer, and Tim Tszyu could crack a little bit himself. So it's going to be an explosive event. I'm just glad that the fight is going to happen. I know you Aussies over there want to see Tszyu versus Michael Zerafa so badly, but God damn it, I don't want to see that. I would
Not
have
me.
rather
I
seen
couldn't
this
care
fight.
less, to be honest.
So
Straight up.
listen, I'm just glad that the fight is going on without a hitch, and I'm expecting a big performance from Tim Tszyu. This is, as Tim Tszyu put it, this is his redemption tour. So he's on tour. This is the first leg of that tour. The first leg is Joey Spencer. So he has to perform well. He has to perform well. He has to not worry about that cut on his head. He can't worry about that no more. In his last fight, he didn't get hit, and then he was pawing at it like it was bleeding again. And that wasn't a good sign. You know, he almost had
No.
PTSD from that cut. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that he has shook whatever that was, and that he can get back to being the Tim Tszyu that the people know and love.
Sad to see, really. Tim Tszyu really revived boxing back in this country. He like, especially in Australia, he revived the. There's so much buzz around him when he fights. Like, we had George Cambosis have a fight night. What was it, last week?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, like, they struggle to sell tickets. Whether they want to, they can say whatever they want. The numbers weren't released because they didn't sell many tickets. It's as simple as that. He struggled to get any buzz there. But Tszyu sells. People want to watch Tszyu, and his team have done a great job at cross marketing him with the bigger codes here, bigger sporting codes, which is the Aussie rules and NRL and so on and so on. So it's been a really good journey so far. To see him lose how he lost to Fundora, where it could have been perfectly preventable if you had a good team in your corner. It's sad. Like he shouldn't have gone down that way. And then to recover from that and come up against a massive puncher in Bakram, his name is.
Bakram Murtazalia.
Yeah. In Bakram, mismatch. Like it's a bad matchup. It wasn't a good matchup coming back from such a big cut and long layoff and whatnot. It just wasn't the right fit. And then we come back to now Joey Spencer. So let's see. Hopefully he can pull things back together, bring back the old Tszyu. Many people believe he's washed up. I still have a glimmer of hope in him. So let's see. Let's see what this weekend brings.
Well, I listen. I don't give a shit who thinks he's washed up. We've seen this tale as old as time in boxing all the time. Someone takes a L or a couple L's, and boxing fans and boxing media write them off. It was just a few months ago when Gary Antoine Russell was announced that he's going to be fighting Rayo Valenzuela for that WBA strap at 140. People were saying, oh, why is he getting a title shot? He's coming off a loss. He's going to lose. And what happened? He shut him out. Okay? You never know with boxing. You never know with boxing. I'm not counting out Tszyu. I believe in Tszyu because he has the warrior spirit. It's in his blood. Okay? He was bred to do this. And I think that over the summer, we're getting Tszyu versus Keith Thurman.
Ooh. It was set up that way. I mean, Brock Jarvis isn't much of a fighter, to be honest with you. It was set up that way. And Thurman's done what he's needed to do. And now let's see if Tim can do his part. And we'll have a massive clash, PBC clash, hopefully. Tszyu versus Thurman. Here we go. Zerafa, don't worry about Zerafa. He's yesterday's news, mate. Need to move on in life. You got to go forward, not backwards. All right, moving on. Eubank versus Benn.
Wait, before you move on, I have to talk about a very important fighter that's on that card in Australia. Okay? Because Tszyu is not the only guy that's trying to set up a big fight. Okay? On that Tszyu undercard against Bakram Murtazalia in October of last year, you had what I believe was one of the most violent bangers of the year between Cesar Mateo Tapia and Andrei Saavedra. And Andrei Saavedra is on that card on Saturday, okay? Cesar Mateo Tapia, he was on that Keith Thurman undercard. I think that we are going to see a rematch between Cesar Mateo Tapia and Andrei Saavedra. And I'm telling you right now, that matchup gets my blood flowing in all the right places, man. That's the kind of boxing that I love. I love bangers. And they might not be the big, sexy names, but that is a great matchup, and I can't wait to see it again.
Doesn't always have to be sexy. We just want good fights.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. I agree.
And that's what it's funny. It's funny because the TKO model is going to be built on that. They're not getting the sexy names early on. It's going to be interesting fights, 50-50 fights, which they'll then create stars out of those that stand up and get through. That's a different conversation altogether. But talking of 50-50 fights, we have a card in Philly this week, I believe, for ProBox TV. ProBox TV's on the road this year. What are your thoughts on the card? Any fights to look out for?
Well, it is pretty disappointing that Nicholas Flies had to pull out of the card. He was supposed to be in the main event. But we do have Ricardo Salas in the main event now. And for those who don't know who Ricardo Salas is, I want you to go into TikTok. I don't do Google or YouTube no more. Go into TikTok and type in Ricardo Salas versus Royman Villa. Okay? That fight was on the pre-show for the Canelo Berlanga card in September. And that was pure violence. And Ricardo Salas sent Royman Villa to hell, knocked him clear out. Okay, so you are going to see a war over there on ProBox. All right, Ricardo Salas is must-see TV. That's all you need to know about that ProBox card on Saturday.
Wow, there you go. Tune in, folks. Saturday night in Philly on ProBox TV, YouTube. We keep going. Eubank versus Benn announced on pay-per-view in the USA, my friend. $24.99, I believe. What's going on? The last presenter did 45,000 views, 45,000 buys in the USA. Stacked card probably cost about $40-50 million to put on. And then we have Eubank versus Benn put on pay-per-view in the USA. Would you believe it? What's happening, mate?
Oh, man. You might have to replace my avatar with a picture of Gary Jonas right now.
Why is that?
Because I'm about to go in right now. All right, listen.
Let's go. This is what we want. Let's go. That's why we're called Raw Sport. We're raw.
when Turki Al-Sheikh made his foray into boxing and the Saudis made their foray into boxing, what was the common refrain that we heard? They don't care about making money. They don't care about making money. They just want to put on this big. They don't care about making money. They're trying to build Vision 2030, blah, 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 right? So why on earth would you charge pay-per-view for Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn in the U.S.? I'm okay with it being pay-per-view in the U.K. Those are their guys. Those are their stars. Correct. Neither Conor Benn nor Chris Eubank Jr. have ever been on pay-per-view in the U.S. Ever in their entire career. And we're not going to start paying for them now. See, the thing about boxing fans and media, the way that they reported, Turki Al-Sheikh is lowering the price of pay-per-views for boxing fans. This is so great. Hooray, right? But that's not what's really happening here. What's happening is that we are getting an extra paywall in front of fights and events that we used to get for free. So that's not lowering the price. You're actually raising the price, okay? Because the price was zero. The price was zero. So you can't say that you're lowering pay-per-view prices. Now, if he was just coming in and lowering pay-per-view prices of Canelo Alvarez versus Bud Crawford, or Canelo versus this, or something like that, then you can celebrate. Listen, I will go hold the man's hand in Riyadh if he could do that, right? But that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is an extra bit of a paywall being put up. And so you have to wonder why. If this is the entity that doesn't care about making money, why is this on pay-per-view in the United States of America? This is, I can tell you right now, this is going to do less than 10,000 pay-per-view buys in America. I'm making that prediction right now. It might do less than 5,000. No one is going to buy this. Like, who is this for? What are you marketing this to? Like, the U.S. market has spoken. We don't like afternoon pay-per-views, and we don't like pay-per-views without a big star, okay? There's only a few guys you could put on pay-per-view in the U.S. Gervonta Davis, Canelo Alvarez, I'll even throw in Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, and now David Benavidez. That's it. That's the list. That is the list. Nothing else should be
Wow.
on pay-per-view in the US. Like I really don't understand what the strategy. Maybe you're listen. You're a smarter man than me. You tell me what the strategy is here.
I'm not smarter than you. I don't understand it either, to be quite honest with you. I mean, what we're seeing at the moment is, I don't know. You're seeing free events in Times Square, and you're seeing silly decisions like this one where people are paying to watch Conor Benn versus Eubank Jr. It's a massive rivalry in the UK, but outside the UK, nobody really gives a shit, to be quite honest with you. So
Hold on. Let me stop you right there. Why are you saying that we're seeing a free event in Times Square?
I mean, isn't it free? They said it's free.
Contraire, mon frere. First of all, this event, from what I've heard, is only going to be exclusive to 300 people, and it's going to be invite only. So we have been sold a bill of goods.
Isn't it televised free or no? Is it just on the zone?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet. But let's use our brains here, right? If Conor Benn versus Chris fucking Eubank is on pay-per-view in the US, you don't think a card with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez is going to be pay-per-view also?
Oh, well, I think it is, yes. Personally, yes. I think it will be on pay-per-view, yes.
Yeah. So good luck. Listen, and the thing is, the fight is less than a month away, and we have absolutely no information on how to watch the card, whether in person or on TV.
Like, what's the story with that? Why is that happening? Like, why are they taking so long to actually release times and where to watch and how to watch and so on? What's the story there? Have you heard anything?
The story is they don't have a proper media communications person. That's why they don't have a proper media communications person. You know, you've been in boxing for a while. You know that when there's an event, we all get blasted with the emails from the media people. Whether it's Queensberry, with what is this guy's name? Oh God, I'm drawing a his name. Yeah, whatever it's Top Rank, whether it's Matchroom, whether it's PBC when they have Swanson Communications. Everybody has their media people sending out constant reminders about their event, where to watch it, training camp photos updating you and stuff, all of that. We have not seen that with React season. We have not seen that with now the Ring Magazine cards. There are no updates on where and how we can watch the event. And I just think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to funnel everyone to Ring Magazine. They want you to go to the Ring Magazine website. They want you to go to the Ring Magazine Twitter. They want all communication to go there. So they're not sending anything out to the general media for us to report on. And I'll be honest with you, if Riyadh season, if Turkey Al-Sheikh and all these guys, if they continue to try to make it difficult to cover their fights and jump through hoops to cover their fucking fights that they want people to watch, I'm just not going to cover their fights. Like, I don't give a shit. I'll cover.
Oh, wow. We've lost him just as he was getting going. Damn. Hopefully he will rejoin us. He was going, and we were just about to get a bit deep on this whole boxing coverage because I had Kevin Ioli on this show yesterday, and he has a similar issue actually. And his issue is that if you're not at the Riyadh season events, you're pretty much left in the dark. People are not being updated or told much about these events if you're not at the actual event. So this is a serious issue because Turkey is meant to be coming into the sport to help grow the sport, not to send the sport backwards. And at the end of the day, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying and what he's doing are two different things. So right now we are seeing things unfold and play out very differently to the oration that's been told to us that they're here to save the sport, they're here to grow the sport. And it's really, really sad, unfortunately. So let's see if we can get him back on. I mean, if we can't, it's okay. We've had a pretty solid episode, and we will just wrap it up. We'll just give him a few minutes. But this issue has been ongoing, and I've been hearing that from multiple journalists that don't get invited to the actual event, and what's happening is, or don't get invited, or don't go to the event. They're not getting much information at all. And Kevin Ioli, as everyone knows, one of the most respected boxing journalists in our industry. So we will see how things play out. I don't think we're going to get Matt back, but it's all good. We've had a pretty solid episode. Thank you, Matty. You're probably tuning in somewhere you can hear us later on. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in. Take care, everyone, and we'll catch you all on the next episode.